بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In last week's Seerah lesson, we looked at the concluding part of the Battle of Uhud, and I mentioned the reasons why the Muslims were defeated. And I explained that it can't be so that all the time the Muslims are being victorious, because if that was the case, then there wouldn't have been a dunya. Because if everyone is winning all the time, then what will happen is that everyone will join the bandwagon. Like it happens with football teams, that when they're winning all the time, everybody starts supporting them. So I gave the wisdom and the hikmah behind why the Muslims suffered a defeat in the Battle of Uhud. And I explained what exactly happened, and the main reason was because of some of the Sahabas disobeying Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's command and leaving that appointed spot. So this was something which was discussed in last week's lesson. Now in this week's seerah, in this week's lesson, we are going to look at the next part or the next major incident of 3rd Hijri. Because remember, we're looking at the battles and the ghazawats systematically in order year by year. So in the 2nd year of Hijri, we looked at the Battle of Badr. Now moving along to the 3rd year of Hijri, so we looked at Uhud. Now we're going to look at the next major battle which took place during this particular year, which is known as the Battle of Hamra'ul Asad. And this particular battle or expedition happened closely after the Battle of Uhud. Now what exactly happened was that when the Quraysh retreated from the plain of Uhud, from the mountain of Uhud, they went to this place called Hamra'ul Asad. And they got together, and the Quraysh, they said to themselves that we managed to defeat, or we managed to cause 70 martyrs of the Muslims, because as you know, during the Battle of Uhud 70 Sahabas were martyred, so we managed to cause 70 losses. So let's now go into Medina Munawwara and defeat the Muslims and finish off Islam for once. Because obviously the Muslims at that time, they must be really weak, a bit sad that they lost 70 of their colleagues. So they said to themselves that, okay, let's now go to Medina Munawwara and finish off Islam for once and for all. So that was their intention. Now Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he heard about their intention, and he gathered all the Sahabas, and he said to the Sahabas that we need to wage war again. And in this particular expedition, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that only those Sahabas who participated in Uhud will go to Hamra'ul Asad. No one else. Only those who went for Uhud will go for Hamra'ul Asad. Only one exception, and the only exception was Hazrat Jabir radhiyallahu anhu, very famous Sahabi, Hazrat Jabir bin Abdullah. Now what happened with Hazrat Jabir radhiyallahu anhu, his father passed away, or his father was one of the 70 shuhadas of Uhud. So Hazrat Jabir radhiyallahu anhu came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said, "O Prophet of Allah, my father, he was martyred in Uhud, so I want to take his place, and I want to go with you to Hamra'ul Asad to fight against the Quraysh and the Mushrikeens." So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted this request from Hazrat Jabir radhiyallahu anhu. But besides Hazrat Jabir radhiyallahu anhu, all the other Sahabas who were there for Uhud were also there for Hamra'ul Asad. Now, the reason why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahabas thought it was very important to come out of their homes again to engage in war with the mushrikeen of Makkah very soon after the Battle of Uhud, was so that to show the mushrikeen of Makkah that we, i.e. the Muslims, are not scared of you. We as Muslims are not, say for example, weak. We are not disheartened. We are not, say, our morale is not low. But whenever Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam call us out to sacrifice our lives for the sake of Islam, then we are willing to do so. Because remember, the Sahabas, their morale naturally was very, very low, because they lost many of their friends, their colleagues, their family members. So naturally you're going to be upset and low. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam called those very same participants of Uhud to wage war against the mushrikeen of Makkah again, to show the mushrikeen of Makkah that you can't just push us around, you can't just like knock us about. You know, we are also strong as well, even though physically we may not show everyone, but we are very strong, and that we are willing to wage war against you because it's a command of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the Sahabas, they then left Medina Munawwara and they stopped over at this place called Hamra al-Asad, which is approximately 8 to 10 miles away from Medina. Now one of the leaders, there was a tribe nearby called Khuza'a. So one of the leaders, whose name was Ma'bad, he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he came what we call for ta'ziyah, as we normally do. When somebody passes away, we go to that person's house for ta'ziyah. So here Ma'bad, even though he was a non-Muslim, but he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for ta'ziyah because of the 70 martyrs of Uhud. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him that, oh, we have come here to wage war against the mushrikeen of Makkah. So now after Ma'bad listened to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, gave ta'ziyah to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to the Sahabas, he then went to the mushrikeen army. And the mushrikeen army, the leader was Abu Sufyan, and he asked Abu Sufyan, oh, why are you here for? So Abu Sufyan said, oh, we are here to fight against the Muslims. So then Ma'bad then told Abu Sufyan that, okay, you are here to fight the Muslims, but the Muslims are also ready, and they are getting prepared, and they are amassing a large army to fight you. Now as soon as Abu Sufyan heard that, oh, Muslims are getting ready to fight them, so he got scared, him and his few people, they got scared, and then instead of waging war against the Muslims, they did a quick U-turn, a sharp turn, and then they went back to Makkah. So it was an expedition, this one, but there wasn't actually any fighting, because remember, Ghazawats or Sariyas, the definition of a Ghazwa is that battle which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam participated himself. Chahiye ke whether there was a battle or not, that's irrelevant. A Ghazwa is something where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam led, whereas a Sariya, an expedition, is where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wasn't there, but one of his Sahabas were the Amir and were the leader of that particular expedition. So whether there was battles or not, that's not the because obviously somebody may argue and say, oh, how is that a battle? There was no battle there. But technically, when it comes to the Sharia, it doesn't depend on whether there was actual war or not. Just being there and waiting for the mushrikeen of Makkah was sufficient enough to consider that to be a war or a ghazwa. So that was the last major battle of 3rd Hijri, the Battle of Hamra al-Asad. Some of the events which took place in the 3rd year of Hijri was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam married Hazrat Hafsa radhiyallahu anha. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam married Hazrat Hafsa radhiyallahu anha in this particular year, and this took place in the 3rd year of Hijri. And Hazrat Hafsa radhiyallahu anha is the daughter, as everybody knows, of Hazrat Umar radhiyallahu anhu. And in Sahih al-Bukhari, her nikah is mentioned, that how the nikah came about. I think I may have mentioned this before, that when Hazrat Hafsa radhiyallahu anha became a widow, when her husband passed away, so Hazrat Umar radhiyallahu anhu firstly offered Hazrat Hafsa to Hazrat Usman radhiyallahu anhu. So Hazrat Usman radiallahu anhu politely refused and said that, okay, I don't want to get married now because I've already married. So then Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu went to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and offered Hazrat Hafsa radiallahu anha to him. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu did not say anything. He didn't reply, he didn't respond. And the hadith goes on to say that Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu was actually more angrier with Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu than with Hazrat Usman radiallahu anhu. Why? Because at least Hazrat Usman radiallahu anhu straightforwardly said, I don't want to get married. But Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu did not even give a reply. So Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu was a bit upset that why wasn't Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu giving me a reply either yes or no? Because obviously sometimes it happens when you ask someone to do something or a favor and he doesn't give you a reply, then you're kind of in between. You know, okay, do I do this or do I do that? And then he doesn't give you a reply. So if somebody had at the beginning given you the reply yes or no, then you could obviously make your next plan or your next move. When somebody keeps you suspended, that yes or no mawkuf, then your plans also remain mawkuf as well. So Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu was a bit upset that why didn't Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu give a reply, give a response. Then Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, a few days later, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Hazrat Umar and asked Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu that I want to marry Hazrat Hafsa. So obviously Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu readily accepted and agreed to the marriage. Thereafter he met Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu asked Hazrat Umar that when you offered me your daughter and I didn't say anything, you were a bit upset, weren't you? So Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu replied that yes, na'am, yes, I was upset because I would have expected at least kam se kam an answer yes or no from you. So then Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu replied by saying that the reason why I didn't say anything is because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam a few days earlier had an intention, talked about Hazrat Hafsa, that he wanted to get married to Hazrat Hafsa. And because of the hadith al-majalisu bil amana, that whatever is discussed in a gathering is a secret, is kept within the gathering, is kept within the four walls. So whatever goes on in the classroom stays in the classroom. Whatever goes on in the meeting place, it stays within the meeting place. Whatever goes on in mashwara, it stays within the mashwara gah. So because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I didn't want to expose the secret of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's why when you asked me, I didn't want to say to you or no, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wants to marry your daughter. So that's why I just kept quiet, because of this raz and the secret of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that year, Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam married Hazrat Hafsa radiallahu anha, and also in this particular year, Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu was born. So Hazrat Fatima, who the year before in the second year of Hijri I mentioned married Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu. So in this third year, in the month of Ramadan, Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu was born. And then it's mentioned in the books of Seerah that 50 days after he was born, Hazrat Fatima radiallahu anha fell pregnant again with Hazrat Hussein radiallahu anhu. So in Ramadan, Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu was born, and then 50 days later, she then fell pregnant again with her second child, Hazrat Hussein radiallahu anhu. So these were the two main events regarding Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself and his Ahle Bayt in that particular year. And also in that third year of Hijri, sharab and alcohol became haram as well. So it was in the third year, alcohol and sharab, liquor, was also made unlawful and haram. Now moving along to the next year now, so we're now moving on to the fourth year of Hijri, the fourth year of migration. And there were some very, very important battles in this particular year. And the first or the first battle of the year was what we know as the Ghazwa Rajia, the Battle of Rajia. Rajia is spelled as Ra, Jim, Ya, Ain. Now the way this battle worked, or the preamble of this particular battle, was that there were two tribes. They were called Adal, obviously two mushrik tribes, Adal and Qara. And these two tribes, they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "O Prophet of Allah, we just converted to Islam, and we need you to send some Sahabas to come and teach us the Quran." So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, looking at them, seeing their sincerity and ikhlas, thought, okay, these people are genuine. So he then sent 10 Sahabas with these two tribes to go and teach them the Quran, to teach them how to read it, to teach them namaz, to teach them the basics of Islam. Now, as we're going to look at later, obviously what happened was that these people, they went against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's command, and what happened was that as soon as they reached a place called Raji', which was in between Makkah and Medina, they ambushed these 10 Sahabas and they killed them. Now you may be thinking here that why did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam allow these 10 Sahabas to go with them because obviously the common question which people may ask here, didn't Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam know that these people are going to do something like this? It's just like, say, if randomly any group comes and says that, oh, we believe in Islam, can you do this, can you do that? Or if somebody was to come, say, to the masjid here and say, oh, we believe in Islam, or we are Zakin, or can you give us the keys for the masjid? So here somebody may argue and say that, okay, randomly these two tribes have come, they just said we believers, we Muslims, and now they're asking for men. So why didn't Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, for example, say to them, okay, no, let me check you guys out, let me investigate, let me do a bit of tahqiq, come and stay with us for a while, let me check whether you're genuine, and then I'll send some Sahabas to come to your tribe or to your Qabila, and they will teach them Islam. Now the reason why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam straight away sent the Sahabas, and from this another hadith is derived, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained to us the qualities of a believer, and he said, al-mu'minu ghirrun kareem, which means that a believer is kareem, he's noble, but this is a key word. Ghirrun, he is naive or he is gullible. A believer, what's his sifat? His sifat is such that he is gullible in terms of he should actually not pre-think or pre-assume about anyone, but just to think everyone to be genuine and to think everyone to be mukhlis. What unfortunately nowadays happens is that whenever somebody comes, we have so many perceptions of that individual. Just say, for example, if a convert, like it happens in some masajid, when a convert comes to the masjid, we have this, perception that, oh, he's a spy or something like that. So we don't allow him to, or we allow him, but we just like giving him like looks or stares and so on. So here Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that no, a quality of a believer is that he is ghirrun, he is gullible, meaning that he could easily be deceived. Now there's nothing wrong with easily being deceived, because you thought that person was genuine. Obviously, if that person now deceives you, then there's another hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then goes on to say that a believer should not be bitten in the same hole twice. The meaning is that if he's been deceived once, then he should not be deceived again. So what these two hadiths are telling us is that we should be naram, we should be welcoming to everyone, irrespective of their background, irrespective of their color, their creed, what they were before, whether they were a bad people, whether they were non-Muslims before, whatever. We shouldn't judge them before. We should be humble, we should be open to everyone. Obviously, if they trick us, if they deceive us, then the second time Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then said that a believer is that he learns his mistake. So he got deceived once, he got dhokad once, he got a mistake once, then the next thing he should do is, okay, then the next time it happens, or next time something similar, then he should remain chokanda, he should remain like aware that, okay, this person may do this, may do that, so that he remains aware. So this is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they came and they wanted to know about Islam, so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was eager to send them to teach them about Islam. Now just very quickly, what happened to these 10 Sahabas? So they reached this place called Raji'. Just very quickly, I'll just explain it's a very long hadith here in Bukhari, but just very briefly I'll just explain. So they reached this place called Raji', and the two tribes, Adl and Qara, kind of ambushed the Sahabas. So the 10 Sahabas, they kind of ran up a hill and they were kind of hiding there. So the two tribes, they said to the 10 Sahabas that if you come down, if you leave your spots in the hill, we will give you amnesty, we will give you aman. So some of the Sahabas were saying that no, we don't believe in them, we don't trust them that they're going to give aman. So what happened is that 7 of the 10 came down the hill, they fought with these two tribes, and they were all martyred because there were so many of them. So eventually all these 7 were martyred and they became shaheed. So there were 3 Sahabas remaining. Now out of the 3, there was one who was called Abdullah bin Tariq anhu. So they all 3, what happened, they said, okay, we'll take the amnesty. So they left the hill. Now as soon as they left their spots in the hill, these 2 tribes, they got hold of these 3 Sahabas and they tied them. They tied their hands, they tied their feet. So this Sahabi Abdullah bin Tariq, he then says to them that, oh, didn't you say that you're going to let us off? Didn't you say that you're going to let us off? That's why we came from the hill. If you didn't have said that, oh, we're not going to let you off, then we would have stayed there. You said you're going to let us off. So then he said, oh, this is the first betrayal. This is the first doka of yours. You said that you're going to give us amnesty. We've come now. Now you tied us up and tied our feet and tied our hands. No, what's this? You're supposed to give us amnesty. So the hadith goes on to say this was their very first betrayal. So Abdullah bin Tariq said that, what, forget this. They're not gonna do anything to us. We can't take their word. So he then fought with them. But because there were so many of them, he also became martyred and shaheed as well. So there were 2 Sahabas remaining. One was Zayd bin Dasina radiallahu anhu, and the other one was called Abdullah bin Khubayb, sorry, his name was Khubayb radiallahu anhu, Khubayb bin Ali. So there were 2 Sahabas remaining. So what happened was, these 2 Sahabas, Zayd bin Dasin and Khubayb radiallahu anhu, they were taken to Makkah and they were sold as slaves. Now the 2 people who bought them as slaves, the first one was Safwan bin Umayyah. Now his father Umayyah was killed in the Battle of Badr by Hazrat Zayd bin Dasin radiallahu anhu. So he bought Zayd bin Dasina with the intention to kill Zayd bin Dasina as a retaliation for killing his father. So the hadith then goes on to say that the people, they took Zayd bin Dasina anhu out of the haram, because you can't kill in the haram. Even those days you were not allowed to shed any blood in the haram. So they took him out of the haram into the hill area, and everyone gathered there. Abu Sufyan gathered there, and they said to Hazrat Zayd bin Dasina anhu that, we'll give you a deal. I'll make an offer to you. The offer is that I'll spare your life, but you have to go to Medina and kill Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Zayd bin Dasin anhu replied to Abu Sufyan and said, oh, how on earth I'm going to do that? Let alone that I don't want any thorns pricking Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like what Zayd bin Dasin anhu is saying, that if a thorn pricked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I can't do bardash. Even the taklif which Rasulullah felt, obviously very minimum, but even that taklif I can't do bardash of. So now you telling me to go and kill Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how can that be? So then Abu Sufyan and everyone then killed this Zayd bin Dasin anhu, and then the other Sahabi, Hazrat Khubayb bin Adi anhu, he was then bought by the sons of Hadith bin Amir, because Hadith bin Amir, again, he was one of the leaders of Quraysh who was killed in Badr by Hazrat Khubayb anhu. So then what happened was that Hazrat Khubayb anhu was a prisoner, and it's mentioned that they waited until the end of Muharram to kill Hazrat Khubayb anhu. The reason why they wait until the end of Muharram, because as everybody knows that Muharram, these are sacred months, you're not allowed to kill anyone, harm anyone. So they waited all the way until the end of Muharram. Then in the month of Safar, they then decided to kill Hazrat Khubayb anhu. And the hadith mentions that they took him out to the jungle somewhere far. So Hazrat Khubayb anhu said to his captors that, can you give me permission to read 2 rakat nafil salah? I want to read 2 rakat nafil, so that before I leave this world, the last thing I want to pray namaz and then leave this world. So the captor said, okay, pray. So Hazrat Khubayb anhu prayed the 2 rakat namaz, but he read it very quickly, very mukhtasar, very short surahs and so on. Now the reason why he did that is because if he had prayed long surahs, or if he had taken 10-20 minutes for nafil, then his captors would have said, oh, look at Hazrat Khubayb, he's scared of dying. He's praying so long namaz, he wants to stay in this world longer. He's asking for help from Allah. So he wants to stay. So Hazrat Khubayb thinking that people may say this, what he did was that he read mukhtasar, 2 rakats quickly, and then obviously he was then killed and executed by these people here. So from this we can understand another message, from that story of Hazrat Khubayb radiallahu anhu, that, and I think I mentioned this before as well, that whatever possible, try to stay away from tuhmat ki jagah, i.e. whatever people may accuse you of something, or you do something which urfan is not considered to be right or acceptable, or just an example, if a Maulana or something was to do something like, say, which is not haram, but the awam or the people will be thinking, oh, that's not actually befitting of an alim or a scholar or a sheikh to do. So in that situation, you should try to refrain from doing things. And any other things as well, like for us, like we may go to a pub. Now our intention may be to go to a pub for to buy orange juice, whatever. So now if somebody sees you coming out of a pub, they're not going to think, oh, he went to buy orange juice. They'll think that, oh, he went to buy alcohol, or he's drinking alcohol, and so on. You know, if you go to, say, like a brothel or something like that, you know, that person's intention may be, I'm going to brothel to give da'wah. When he comes out, they think, okay, you know, Imam Sahib or someone's coming out of the brothel or something like that. Nauzubillah. So, you know, these kind of things. What I'm trying to say, that whatever people may, even though your intention may have been something else, but if people were to see you around there, then people think, okay, what's happening here? So you try to refrain from these places as well. And we could derive that from that story of Hazrat Khubayb radiallahu anhu. May Allah give us the tawfiq to what has been said. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.